crunched.
I love records.
Live.
45s, 33.
That's right. Let's see. What I'm going to do now for the next couple of minutes here, Dave, is we stream the show on Facebook on the Guys from Queens Network page, GFQ.
Excellent.
And we and in order our distribution model is we share that to a number of other pages, so that if you're even remotely involved with the broadcast business, you can't miss the show. That's our distribution model. You can't miss it.
That's a good distribution model.
I like it. Works for
everywhere.
me.
Be everywhere you can be.
That's right. So, share this a couple places.
I ran out of time to get you guys pictures, so I'll have to be boring.
Well, and I don't know, you want to try the second camera deal?
We can try that. 70% on my phone.
Well, it'll be down to 20% by the time we're done, but as long as you don't need it, that's fine.
Is that one of those deals you want me to fire it up now, or when we get closer to needing it? Or
probably be smart to make sure it works now. Yeah, and
the only problem is I will lose you in my ears if I go more than 6 feet away.
No. When you go walk around, take your earbud out and depend on the phone's speaker to provide you with return audio. But when the phone is laying there somewhere near you, you need to turn the volume on the phone all the way down so you don't hear us. Oh, and Suncast can take care of switching it out. Suncast, the plan is, because I'd love for Dave to show us around, so he'll walk around with the camera, but he'll have to use his microphone on the camera during that time. Still posting.
Gotta find the link. Guest 2.
It'd be easiest, I guess, to get your email on the phone. And
can't be one of these vertical video people. I have to do. Yeah.
Are you a vertical video person?
I'm not.
Oh, no, I don't want it vertical. I want it, landscape.
I know.
Okay.
Facing back. Look at this setup. Whoa. You want to do like a little fireplace footage?
I don't know what that means.
Well, like the fireplace channel at Christmas time.
Oh, well, it looks like your phone's coming through quite nicely. Suncast, is that working for you in terms of bit rate? Oh, okay, lovely. Okay, well, it'll be great for a walk and talk tour if Dave can provide for that. Dave has a surprise to unveil for us, so he promised. So he teased. I thought
what was my surprise?
I don't know.
That
it was
the
a surprise.
Is that it?
I don't think it was.
I can't remember the surprise now.
You gave me a clue, but I can't assume anything.
Oh, okay. Well, you might have to lead me back to it.
Well, I'll vamp while you walk if I need to. It's not a problem. Let's see. We are. I think I've shared the show out to all the good normal places, so we should be good to go there. Oh, let me make one little edit and add Dave Radigan's name to tag you, Dave, in my post. Dave Radigan, done. All right. Good deal. Oh, Okay. Hey, it's top of the hour. It is time to start the show. Let me get back on where I'm supposed to be here. And let me find the email that I sent to Suncast about what we're going to talk about for a couple of the ads. Let's see. There we go. All right. Good deal. Hey, everybody. We're getting ready to do This Week in Radio Tech for Thursday, May the 9th, 2024. It's episode number 695. We should start a betting pool on how many episodes Kirk's going to do before he retires. I'd like to make it 1,000. Think we can do 1,000? I think we can do 1,000. That's only 305 more shows after this one. That's 6 years worth. Yeah, we could do 1,000 shows. Sounds good. Okay. And we're ready to start the show. Let me tilt the camera up just a smidge. There we go. I have to make sure I get all my hair into the shot. And we're ready to start This Week in Radio Tech in 3. Oh, 1 second. That's fine. Take your time. Yeah. Okay. That's our...
Of course it is. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Where's my camera? Yeah, okay.
All right, hold your mouth like that, Dave. He's back. It's good. Okay, perfect. All righty, let's get started then. Episode 695. We'll start it in 3, 2. Hey, welcome into This Week in Radio Tech, the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to that light bulb at the top of the tower. Hello, I'm Kirk Harnack. Delighted that you have joined us, and I hope to bring you a really fun show today. Fun and informative, and I've got just exactly the right guest to bring that to us. Fun and information. Like I said, I'm Kirk Harnack. I'm here in the Telos Alliance studio in Nashville, Tennessee, back home from my 2-week trip into the Dominican Republic. That was an eye opener, a lot of fun and interesting too. Hey, Chris Tarr was going to be with us today, but he's run into an errand with a family errand. So I wish Chris the best, taking care of the family. That's always comes first. So Chris, we'll look forward to seeing you back. And he said he might be able to make a little cameo today. We'll see. Maybe keep fingers crossed. Maybe he'll make a little cameo appearance today. It's a beautiful day in Nashville after some terrible weather yesterday, and maybe more bad weather on the way. We had some tornadoes here in Middle Tennessee, and I believe we even had one fatality just about 30 miles south of where I am. But that has all moved on. Now we just got some flooding, and so there you go. There's your weather update for Middle Tennessee. And that's enough of me. Let's bring in our guest. Our guest is a fellow who I've had the pleasure of meeting a couple times, and that is Dave Radigan. Dave, welcome in. Good to see you on TWiRT.
Hello, Kirk. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you. You are a station owner. You got a group owner. Tell me a little bit about Dave Radigan and what you have there in terms of radio.
Sure. We are on the New York and Pennsylvania border. I started with an AM station on a long wire antenna with no FM translator way back in 2006, my first station, WEBO. And we've spent a good 15 years with that, wondering if we were ever going to grow. And once COVID started rolling around, we started doing deals with a bunch of radio station owners that were ready to retire. So in the last 5 years, we've completed 4 deals, and we have 17 signals now. So 3 full power FMs, 5 full power AMs, and 9 translators. We operate from 10 different tower sites in 2 different states. We're right in the middle here in Sayre, Pennsylvania. Our Owego market is 25 minutes to the east. Our Elmira Corning market is 25 minutes to the west. And our Towanda, Pennsylvania market is 25 minutes to the south. And we're in the one spot where we can hear all of those signals right from here. So that's how we picked our headquarter location as we grew. But that's how we're doing it. We run 6 different formats, 6 brands between the 17 signals.
You know, the more people I talk to in radio, it seems like we're doing more and more. And a lot of people are being pretty effective at it. A few people, I think, maybe are slipping behind. But you remember the Ed Sullivan show and the guy with the little wooden dowels? You're not old enough. You're 20 years younger than I. And he had the plates, and he would spin a plate, and he'd wiggle the wooden dowel, keep that one going, then he'd go to the next one, the next one. You've got 17 signals in across what essentially three market areas. And your sign behind you says 17 signals and one team. That's really remarkable.
One very exhausted, overworked, high energy team. We cover 5,000 square miles.
Wow. We're going to find out more about, the theme of today's show is taking new high technology, the kind that we usually see in big markets first, and how Dave has adopted, this high tech, what I call high tech, high tech techniques and operating procedures and workflows, and work them into his relatively small market stations. Now, I'm not saying they're all small market. Elmira's not a market to be sneezed at, and altogether 5,000 square miles. So we're going to find out from Dave, technology, from a technology point of view, what he's implemented and how that helps him. Dave's wife, Irene, helps out. They both do voice tracking. They're both on the air, and we're going to find out more about that. It's going to be really interesting. Hey, I'm Kirk Harnack. Our show, This Week in Radio Tech, is brought to you in part by Nautel. I want to tell you real quick about some things that Nautel has going on. Well, the one thing they've got going on, and that is the HD Digital Radio Test Drive. The HD Radio Digital Test Drive is an offering intended to break down the barriers keeping many broadcasters from trying HD radio. HD radio transmission has the potential to create critical presence in the car dashboard and help stations stay competitive in a field of alternative media choices. Things that maybe even some car manufacturers would even prefer to stick on the dashboard because they may make a few shekels off of that. Based on Nautel's software-based air chain technology, HD Digital Radio Test Drive allows broadcasters to trial HD radio transmission in their market for up to 6 months to unlock listeners, content, and new revenue potential without needing to install and purchase $40,000 or $50,000 worth of HD gear. So, an easy, minimal cost option to turn on HD radio transmissions so broadcasters can test new revenue generating opportunities with their sales teams and experiment with new formats, maybe different languages if you've got niche formats like that, or even short-term pop-up event stations. You can see the impact on listener retention and engagement when album art or graphics are displayed on the auto dashboard. And you can counter competing alternative media this way. So here's what you need to get started. Lease or purchase a Nautel GV2 transmitter, or you can upgrade your existing GV transmitter to a GV2. Also, you'll need an Xperi main station or equivalent license and a signed trial agreement with Nautel. And you'll need content for 1, 2, 3, or up to 4 channels delivered via LiveWire or industry standard, worldwide standard AES 67. So ask your Nautel rep about this test drive, the HD Digital Radio Test Drive. It's a good way for you, if you haven't yet, to get your feet wet in HD radio. I recently had the opportunity to put HD radio on the air in a college town, Oxford, Mississippi, where Ole Miss University is, and we're having a good time with it. We actually had a brief outage the other day due to the power being out. We got phone calls from our HDs, so that was pretty interesting, and glad to hear that. Check it out from Nautel. Go to the website, nautel.com, for more information. All right, it's Kirk Harnack, and it looks like Chris Tarr won't be with us today, but I'll be here the whole time. But more importantly, Dave Radigan is here, and I'm going to tease a little bit. Later in the show, Dave should be able to take us on a little tour and maybe show us a couple of surprises. So I'm eager to see that. So Dave, you're a station owner and CEO of your company. Real quick, it's a bit of a family affair. I've met your wife, Irene. She's friends with my wife, Carmen, and they met in Hawaii. A great place to meet. And she's part of your operation as well. Isn't that right?
Yep. So my wife, Irene, and I run the company together. So I started in 2006. Let's see. So we'll do some easy math for you. So I'm 42 right now, and I've been in radio, believe it or not, for 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
I went on the air when I was 12 years old. My uncle was the operations manager for an AM station in the Finger Lakes. And I don't know, I was at their house one day and he said, "You want to come to work with me?" And I said, "What are we doing?" He says, "We're going to do a live broadcast from a antique and classic car show in Naples, New York." I said, "Okay, let's do it." So I went to work with him that day. And I remember we went to this house nearby at the edge of this field. And there was like 100 feet of telephone cable and it was hanging out the window of this house. And we stretched it out underneath this tree, laid out a blanket, opened this gym bag, an old RV or old EV mixer with a rotary dial phone the mixer was wired into the phone and we had an EV stick mic and I had a stopwatch around my neck. We had 3-minute satellite network local breaks from Stardust Network. And when the board op hit that sounder for the remote, we had 3 minutes to fill. And send it back to the local station to go back to the network. And we did 2 hours of that. And I thought, this is awesome. I'm hooked. I want to own a radio station someday. And so I spent all of my vacations as a youngster going to work with my uncle. The owner of the station at the time, Russ Kimball, would trade out a lot of cruises and go on a lot of cruises. And so my uncle would go from afternoons to filling in for the station owner in mornings. And we would go to work with him, my cousin and I, and he'd be recording the news for the morning show and writing it up and getting it all done. And we'd be playing in the production, making our own commercials, carting stuff up and using reel-to-reels and doing all this great, crazy stuff. And so I took every vacation opportunity I had when I didn't have school, spring break or whatever. Chances were good that my uncle would be filling in on the morning show. So I'd go and do the morning show. And then eventually, when the station owner would go on vacation, my uncle would fill in on mornings. And then I got the opportunity to fill in for him on afternoons from 4 to 6. And I'd spend all afternoon running breaks on the Stardust Network with playing carts for commercial breaks, the local breaks all afternoon, and preparing the news and recording it and getting it perfect on cassette and playing it back. So I went from that AM station to volunteer at a non-commercial FM in Rochester, WBER. And then I got an internship at Entercom Rochester. And that went to part-time board op. And then eventually in college, that went to full-time. Halfway through my sophomore year, I became the assistant program director for WBBF at Oldies Station. So I was programming an Oldies station before I was legally old enough to drink. And lasted there until I finished college. I spent 6 years at Entercom. And of course, in my last semester, I was ready to work full time. And they changed the format on the station and sold it. So I had to find a new job. I went to work in TV for Nexstar as an assignment manager for about a year and a half. And that's when I decided that I just absolutely loved radio and I needed to get back to it. And found an opportunity to buy an AM station in Owego. And my father was retiring after 32 years from Xerox at that point. And so he and my mother and my brother, the four of us, kind of partnered up on paper to buy this station. And I moved to Owego, 2 hours from Rochester, and they all stayed in Rochester. And I started rebuilding this radio station in 2006. And it was mostly my father and I, my father by phone and me on location, and my mother and my brother in support and in name. And eventually, Irene and I, we met originally in 2009 and went through a terrible flood in Owego in 2011, which really put the station on the map. And then we eventually got together in 2016 and we got married in 2018. And ever since 2016, she's been the sales arm of the radio stations. And I've been the programming, engineering, operations side. And the two of us do it all together. She's always out selling stuff and I'm always here fixing stuff. So
wow,
that's kind of how we do it. And we bought out my
yeah. I'm sorry.
We bought out my family in 2019, right before COVID, and then the station was all ours in 2020, and COVID hit, and we were on our own, and that's when everybody else started retiring, and we started sucking up more stations.
Oh wow, you are steeped in this business, my goodness, and have done everything. You sound like a lot of us.
I don't know how to do anything else at this point. It's scary.
That's the excuse a lot of us have. I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow.
And I, to be honest with you, I love this too much to want to do anything else. So
yeah. I think, Dave, that maybe the first time you and I talked, though, was on the topic of engineering. And just a moment ago, you mentioned in all the other jobs that you do as owner, CEO of the company, you did mention the word engineering in the midst of that.
Sure.
Are you really the engineer for all these stations? Do you have somebody help you out? How does that work out?
So I do have engineer three engineers that do assist us. So I have one contract engineer who's 3 hours away. He's excellent. He knows how to do all the FCC filing. He got us our first translator and our second and our third and our fourth and all these others. And he's comes up to do build outs. And if I ever had a catastrophe like the flood in 2011, he came up for that. And he's part owner of a station in Western New York. So he'll go visit that every month or two and he'll stop on his way through or stop on his way back when we need something. So he's been very helpful with a lot of the big heavy lifting type projects. And we also have a local engineer who's started mostly his career as an electrical engineer. He's retired 3 times, but he doesn't like being retired. So he keeps going back to work, but he's very good at helping us with our sort of, I guess I'll call them our legacy transmitters, our tube transmitters and our big high power solid state transmitters. And then our third person's actually our IT guy. And so he handles all the data infrastructure between there. And then I handle all the day-to-day stuff. And I consult with these guys when I get in over my head or when I hit a brick wall. But a long, long time ago, when I first started playing in radio with my uncle, I kind of made a rule for myself that, whenever I need help, I'll ask for help, but I'm always going to watch. So when an engineer comes to fix something, I'm going to watch them fix it and I'm going to learn how. So I never have to ask them how to fix that specific thing again. So after 30 years, I've seen everything break and, I've watched it being fixed. And so I'm pretty proficient when it comes to engineering.
I think you're a model owner when it comes to implementing. You're not scared of new technology. You don't buy old things because you're familiar with them. You tend to look at the new tech, whatever it may be, and to see how can this help my operation, and then you work to understand it and implement it. And at least that's the feeling I got from you the first time we talked a few years ago. I think you wanted to implement an STL over IP radio, and we talked about that and how I had done it. And so I guess my question is, what was, thinking back over your history of owning a station and then adding more, what were some of your first forays into, we got to get a new technology in here, and what was your motivation for doing so?
A couple motivations, right? You want to make it as simple as possible, right? You gotta, to me, there's no cooler feeling than going into a studio and start tugging on wires and saying, what's this wire do? Is this even going anywhere? Is this even doing anything? And getting it out of there when you find out that it's not going to something that you're using anymore, and just paring it down and simplifying it, getting it right down to what are we actually using and what do we need so that we don't have all this extra junk in our way. And once you do that, you get a really good understanding of how everything works. So, I'm really good at figuring that stuff out, but I'm lousy at taking the time to sit down and document it, right? So I have the air chain for 17 signals in my head, and nobody else around here knows how the whole thing works. So that's where I need to improve. But, we try to make it as simple as possible. And honestly, today you can get it down to your automation system, your audio processing, your STL, your transmitter, those 4 things. Yeah. And you can be on the air with a station, bang, ready to go.
When I talk to station owners these days, and engineers too, of course, I work for Telos Alliance and have, since the days of the, even before the Omnia 6 processor came out. I mean, when I first got hired there 24 years ago, I was Omnia demo boy. But then we quickly came out with the whole audio over IP stuff with Axia and Livewire. And we kind of quickly figured out that a major change in the way radio stations could work was that the audio console no longer needed to be the centerpiece of any radio station. It could instead be an accessory to any radio station and could be flexible in what air chain it was being used on. It didn't have to be, this console is that air chain and this console is that air chain. And so we now it's, more network centric. Did this same idea occur to you at some point along the way? Maybe when you started looking at audio over IP?
I mean, I certainly never created the idea or came up with the idea on my own, but, I keep my ears open and I see what's going on in the industry. I watch a lot of Kirk Harnack videos on YouTube. So, I know what's going on from that and some other organizations. But, when we had WEBO is a completely analog plant until the satellite conversion, when we all had to switch to different satellites, and a lot of us had to get new dishes and do all installs. And so that was my first introduction into Axia X nodes, because we had to put in a ubiquity link. The old microwave link was great, but it was only sending audio one way. So when we switched to needing bidirectional audio so that we can have the satellite dish out of the tower site, we own the tower site, but we rent the studio. I got tired of putting satellite dishes in. So we put it at a place that we own, that's not on a roof and it's on the ground, so that for the next 30 years, I don't have to maintain this thing on property we don't own, and, on an icy roof, because, you only work on that in those terrible situations. But that was my first entrance into, okay, ubiquity link, an X node at this side, a mixed signal X node at this side, a mixed signal X node at that side. And we can send our program audio to the transmitter site, and we can send our satellite audio back to the studio, and we can send our closures from our satellite receivers at the transmitter site back to the studio, which is a fairly common thing. But, to do it on a ubiquity network that's private, that you're, in control of the whole thing, and the X nodes, that was really my first entrance into audio over IP in what was otherwise a completely analog plant. When we started accumulating stations, we started with an AM FM combo in Sayre, 25 miles away. So we started working in Owego in the morning and Sayre after the morning show. And it became evident pretty quickly that we want to start clearing out some of the analog wiring and start putting AOIP digital stuff. The AOIP drivers are just incredible, because it takes any computer device in the building, and now it's on your network, and it can be anywhere you need it to be. And it was pretty clear, pretty quick that, doing this is the way to go. And I can run one Cat5 wire to each room in the building and share audio across the whole place. And then, for our third acquisition, we had just finished the second acquisition, and the next owner called and said, "Hey, congratulations on your last purchase. Do you want to make this purchase?" And that was how the fourth one happened. "Congratulations on the last one. Do you want to make this one?" And so year after year, we closed 4 deals in 5 years, and we built a group of stations, and we knew in this building, this is the time for Axia and AOIP, and it's very scalable. And so that's what we started doing. And the X nodes have been great. We first chance we got in the first 2 months, we were still on LMA with WAVR and WATS. We bought what am I? I'm on an IQ console with a Core 32, and that that really upped our capabilities. And then started putting AOIP drivers on all the computers everywhere, and then your satellite receivers are starting to come with live wire and AOIP built into them, and it's just like, this is so easy.
Yeah, yeah. I recently had to, implement the new Wegner iPump receiver, and we're getting ready to do some in another town up in Kentucky. And yeah, they've got live wire, including the contact closures built into them. I was thinking I'm going to have to buy a bunch of X nodes to, interface all the channels that this station or these stations get from the new Wegner receiver. Oh, no, it has all that built into it, audio over IP. I want to say that some of the NPR people have enjoyed that for some years now. They've had audio over IP built into their receivers. Hey, we're talking to Dave Radigan. Dave is the owner and CEO at Radigan Media. It's a family-owned business. They have 17 signals, 17 transmitters, and we're talking to Dave about implementing newer, modern technology into a group of really smaller market stations. And we're going to continue to talk to Dave about how that implementation has been going. And hopefully we'll get a tour of what's going on. Also want to ask Dave about the gear that's in his studio there. I think I saw a couple of our different sponsors' gear right behind him there. Our show This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by Broadcast Bionics and the rather amazing Bionic Studio. All the things that go into a wonderful studio experience that can get the work you do now to leverage even harder for you on social media. Check it out.
Welcome to the Bionic Studio. The Bionic Studio brings all audience interaction to the fingertips of a production team in radio, TV, and podcast. Our workflow-led system is working 24/7 around the world for small broadcasters and national and international networks. Our telephony module, Bionic Talk Show, allows cost-effective centralization, remote operation, scalability, and resilience across an entire network of stations, but at the same time is used in single-studio self-op environments. Social media curation and activity is now considered a broadcast-critical part of programming. Bionic Social means the studio isn't overwhelmed with a wall of interaction from an ever-growing number of social platforms. We combine SMS, MMS, and email together with a speech-to-text service for listeners using smart speakers. We enable studio teams to curate, filter, and display all platforms in one place, and post text, images, and video content to multiple platforms in one operation. Effortless collection of video content with Bionic Director has helped position some of the world's most successful stations as leaders in viral content, generating appointments to listen and free marketing via retweets and shares. Bionic Contest enables end-to-end tracking of on-air competitions, live reads, and prizes. These could be on-air contests, automated SMS entry, or online. Anywhere, and Skype TX for Radio brings high-quality audio and video contribution into the studio with ease. No need for dedicated PCs to run different applications. Everything is controlled within the Bionic Studio UI, and incoming connections are visible to users along with all other platforms. Our codec integration enables connection, algorithm configuration, and directory to a wide range of IP and ISDN codecs. The Bionic Studio, a unique suite of products designed to enable your talent to work smarter.
Broadcast Bionics, they keep winning awards at NAB shows and IBC shows as well. Check them out at bionics.co.uk, or I have another, I think you can also get there by going to bionic.radio. And they have dealers all over the world, including here in the USA as well. So check them out. Go to bionic.radio. And check out their offerings. A lot of different things, more than just the ad you just saw. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack here on This Week in Radio Tech, our episode number 695. We're here with Dave Radigan. Dave and his family run Radigan Media in New York, Pennsylvania, right there on the border. So they have a lot of zip codes they're worried about, and they cover about 5,000 square miles with 17 signals. Holy moly. Dave, I don't know how you keep track of it all. That's an awful lot to keep track of. And you've got, you do some engineering. You've got some engineers that help you out. Dave, I wonder, you're sitting in a studio right now, and just before we went to that commercial break, I mentioned that there's some gear behind you. I see an Axia console, but I also see a Vox Pro behind you. Tell me about how this studio is outfitted.
You do. So this studio was the first thing that we redid when we bought WAVR and WATS. Love the fact, by the way, that we own a radio station, an AM radio station called WATS. That actually stands for Waverly, Athens, Towanda, Sayre, which are 4 different community names around here. But as a broadcast engineer guy, I love Watts. I think it's pretty cool. So they were, they're 2 full power, an AM and an FM combo, and they were simulcast when we bought the station. They were running I think a Westwood One adult contemporary format. It was just it's been a pure simulcast for almost the entire existence of both stations. So it was a fairly simple setup. We were starting with an analog console that was here. There was a Simian automation system, and there were like 8 microphones in the studio, and they were of all different kinds and all different things. And this station's been famous for having a lot of guests. You bring the basketball team in, everybody gets a microphone and everybody's talking. So there was a lot going on in this room when we got here, and we needed to kind of boil it all down and get it on the same page. So pretty cost effectively, pretty quickly right out of the gate, what we did was replace the entire air chain on the station. And it was amazing how affordable that was to do. We started with new microphones, new Yellowtech Mica mic arms, which are very complicated. I'm going to admit that I still don't have the tally lights working 3 or 4 years later. I know it's not that hard to do, but I just never find the time to work on that. We have an IQ console, 8-channel console with a 6-channel sidecar that has the Telos Axia telephone controller here. There's a VX Prime Plus sitting in the rack room downstairs. And then we have my favorite product from Wheatstone is the Vox Pro. So we have that controller here. Computer for that is under the desk here. And then to our far right here is actually just a utility computer. And we use that for writing and email and things like that. But we can also pull up our automation system on it and control it from there. And we've, over the last couple of years, switched over to Playout One. So when we broke WATS away from WAVR, we decided that News Talk was the way to go. Our only competitor in the Elmira recording market had just come into town and deleted all AM talk programming and used the AMs for music formats and to get programming on FM translators. Nothing wrong with that. We do that on a lot of our stations, but there was a niche to fill in the News Talk market. We had an AM only signal. It never got a translator. Previous owner decided not to apply for one. I wish that they would have, but they didn't. But it's 5,000 watts non-directional on 960, so it's a screaming good signal, and we're not that far from Elmira recording. So, we put a News Talk station on. That was our third format. So we had Adult Contemporary on WEBO. We switched Adult Contemporary on WAVR over to Classic Hits so that they weren't competing with one another. And then eventually we switched to News Talk on WATS, which allowed us to put our first install of Playout One on. And our thought was, well, let's try Playout One on a News Talk format. And if they can get a News Talk format working well, music stations would be a piece of cake. And so Playout One has been great for us. They do a great job with what we call Liberty 960 WATS. So we started there, and then we switched WAVR over to Playout One, and then we switched WEBO over to Playout One. And then as we grew other stations in, we just started them from scratch, fresh with Playout One. So we have a lot of Playout One in here. Every Playout One machine in the building has an Axia AOIP driver on it. Our production computers in the building all have that. My desk in my office has an AOIP driver. It has Playout One installed on it, and I can use it to look at any of our 6 formats. There's a little drop-down box, and you just pick which station, and it changes the control. Changes the control interface over to whatever station, whichever log, and all the decks. And then Irene has the same in her office, right next to mine, so she can voice track her afternoon drive show on WOKN right from her office. I can voice track my midday show on WOKN or any of the other shifts, and it's pretty great. So. For us, it's kind of a new concept because up until a few weeks ago, this station, this equipment right here was running Choice 102 WAVR through it 24/7. It's a new concept to us now that this studio is a floating studio. So we can pull up any station in any of our markets and run it through this studio. This is our nice Axia studio. Most of our other rooms are just Playout One, a USB Scarlett or a Rodecaster or something with an RE20 microphone. And it's just sort of for production. But this is our interview room. This is our morning show room. This is where we do all the really fancy stuff in here.
But yeah, so that's kind of because of the because of the routing flexibility of audio over IP, that room can be anything at any time that you need it to be, right?
And it's a new concept, for us. You alluded to this, I guess, in the intro of the show here. This is something that the big boys have been doing for years. iHeart and Town Square and Cumulus and all these guys can do things like that. So, I have people on our staff. We have 19 people that work for Radigan Media, a lot of part-time, but, we run the company with maybe 5 or 6 full-time people total between the different markets with a lot of part-time helpers. But some of these part-time helpers, have worked for the other companies. Oh yeah, I did that. What you're describing, what you're doing, I did that 20 years ago at Town Square. And well, that's great. But Town Square paid for that. this is us paying for it out of they're like, mom and pop can do that now. It might be 20 years later, but going back to what you said in the open for the show, like that's where we're at now with these mom and pop stations. Like the technology is so good and affordable and accessible that we can be doing this now. And so we've built our company on that.
That is a good point. A point that I made in some presentation a long time ago, is that it used to be that your big city stations typically had, a $20,000 to $40,000 PR&E audio console, and it was huge. And then your smaller stations might have had some secondhand Gates Yard, right? That
Sure.
they were still keeping limping along. Or you'd have a console from Arrakis. Nothing wrong with that, but they were built less expensively, to be sure. And now with audio over IP, and as we move into being able to virtualize different broadcast functions like audio consoles and phone systems and audio processors and things like that, it more levels the playing field, so to speak, because you can afford to have the same or very similar audio quality and functionality as what the big boys have. And it's really getting more level on a playing field when you implement this kind of technology. It's all thanks to IT technology, which is, as a technology is pretty cheap compared to, one-off or just a few off, broadcast technology things like consoles and cart machines. So that's pretty cool. So you got started in this newer technology with an STL, and then you expanded that to some routing and recently to your audio console there, and your automation systems. Do you see anything next on the horizon for you? Yeah, what technology might you be going to next, either studio or transmitter technology?
I don't necessarily know where we're going next. I feel like we've just sort of arrived at the train station that we've been looking at for all these years. You see these things, these great ideas and these great systems, and you say, okay, we're going to implement this, and you got to, like assembling a train. What order are you going to put them in, and how fast can that train go? Especially when your mom and pop stations are paying for it out of your operating budgets, right? So you do it as you can. I was talking to one of my friends earlier. He says, when you can paint, you paint. When you can do carpet, you do carpet. When you put in a new transmitter, you put in a new transmitter. You build. So, some people hate this phrase, but, you build the plane while you're flying it. And, sometimes that's kind of what you have to do. And I feel really good that we're at a spot now where our last acquisition was about a year and a half ago. And we find that it takes a year to do an acquisition, and it takes a year to get everything kind of working the way you want it to. And then everything else catches back up to it. So we're at a spot now where we've got all the things that I want. We've moved our rack room from a single 7-foot rack downstairs to a bunch of racks. I can't believe we had all these stations running through one rack. I don't even know how that's possible. We moved everything downstairs, and it took up 4 racks by the time we got it down the stairs. So just having that going is great. This studio now is going to be a floating studio. I've got 6 rooms on the floor of this building that are going to be kind of equally functional as floating studios. So going from a facility that had a main studio and a production studio to a room that's like, well, I redid Irene's office last summer, and when we were done, I said, geez, all we need to do is add a microphone, and this room has studio capability. And so we added an RE20 mic and a mic arm and a Scarlett USB sound card, and her room's a studio now, which then made my office a studio, which now matches the production room. And now that we moved the old rack room downstairs, the old rack room is going to become a production studio. And then we hired a full-time news director, put a little Rodecaster Duo on his desk and gave him an RE20, and now his is a studio. So now, it's kind of like the old days. You had a bunch of studios and you build it for the highway, right? You build a 4-lane highway to handle rush hour traffic, but that doesn't mean that all 4 lanes are going to be busy all day long. So we have the capability in this one office of 6 studios to handle the busier moments of the day when everybody's really trying to get their stuff done. So that's what we've been able to do here. And then we still have 2 studios back in Owego that we can use. And we'll have studios in Elmira Recording by the time we're done getting those fixed. So we'll have lots of opportunities to contribute audio and do interviews for the different stations and share. This is the part that I love the most now that we've been growing. We do an interview on one station in one town. Well, now we can use it in the news back at headquarters and use it in all the towns. And so now we're contributing audio and we're sharing talent. It's still all local talent, but this guy's been able to do a midday show on this station, and then he can do a midday show on that station. Well, my guy Matt in Owego does mornings in Owego, but now he does afternoons here. But he can use that studio in Owego to do mornings on WEBO, and then that same studio to do afternoons on Choice. And with a Comrex Bricklink in between here over our VPN,
right?
That studio, they walk into the studio, turn the microphone on, just like just like anything, and it's coming out over the air. But the automation system is back here at the mothership. So, it's just incredible to be able to have this technology accessible to us now at our mom and pop level.
And what I hear from you, and I didn't expect otherwise, really, you don't implement new technology for technology's sake. In each case, you're solving a problem, and you're doing it with the current, what I would think is cool technology at the moment that becomes available. And that often ends up being cheaper, and in some ways more reliable and more standard with what the rest of the world is doing by doing that. So you implement things as you need them. And I think that's obviously a financially smart way to go. It's sustainable. Rather than just buying the latest gadgets just because they're available.
It's always fun to buy the latest gadgets because they're available, but I can't do that. So they have to solve a problem. They have to make us more efficient. They have to make us sound better. And as long as they check any of those boxes, then it's worth doing. So
you mentioned the word studios quite a few times in the last few minutes. What's the chance we might be able to see if your camera 2 is up and operating, and we can take a walk through Radigan Media and see this room that you showed me earlier? Can we do that?
I'm happy to give you a walking tour. This is the best room. It's all downhill from here. Okay.
Well, now I saw a room that had a bunch of tools laying around. It looked like tool time. Is that
room? And this is that room.
Oh, okay.
I know you don't recognize it because my station manager and I spent all day cleaning it. But
okay. Well, I don't know what you've got in store for us, if anything. Do you want to use camera 2 to show us around, or is that worthwhile?
Camera 2 is my cell phone, and the next thing is you'll see why I had such a short career in television.
Well, I was going to say that Suncast won't put it on the air until it's stable, but it looks like he went ahead and put it on the air.
Right. Well, if you wait for it to be stable with me holding it, you probably never get it.
All right. So obviously,
yep. In the background, can you hear me on my phone audio? Is that good?
I'm hearing you from some mic. I'm not sure which one it is. Maybe Suncast can advise as to what.
So this is the studio mic here, but in order to get you a decent shot, I'm going to have to step away from it.
Okay. All right.
From my cell phone here.
Yeah.
And if this goes badly, just abandon ship and we'll I'll get you back up to you here. But this is our main studio here. We do a lot of showcase studios. We like having them in the glass so that people can see what's going on and put eyes on a radio station. But this is the island. It's a giant granite island. It's sponsored, and we do all of our interviews on the Choice 102 morning show on the island. And we have our Axia console here, and we've got our Yellowtech mica arm there, and then stuff we were discussing earlier. But as we kind of get a little bit further back, you see we've taken all the monitors off of the island and put them from the sky here. And those
that's
are
cool.
2 side-by-side 75-inch TVs off the shelf from Walmart, TCL TVs. And what we have here on the left is our Playout 1 automation screen. And on the right is Vox Pro or whatever else you need. vMix for video streaming or whatever you're working on. You can change between those 2 screens. On the right-hand side here, we have another 75-incher on the wall that's just strictly for signage, and it is married to this one over here. which again shows the same signage. We have a little Stream Deck box here in the studio.
I was going to ask you how you're using that Stream Deck box. What's that box do for you?
It changes the sign. So if you're doing if you're using the floating studio for a morning show on one station, you can put that sign up. And then if you want to go and do a contest, you just hit the button for the other station. You use the studio for a contest or a video interview or a podcast or whatever. And just switch through pretty easily. Just rebrands the whole room.
Wow, that's cool.
So
what a nice solution.
And we have this button here we'll press, and it just shuffles through all of the logos every 10 seconds, and it'll go through all of those. So we have our fake electric fireplace here, which we have off today because it's very hot. So as you can see, our air conditioning unit is working overdrive right there. And then our windows out there, and then our guest positions here. Looking back at the main operator position. So what we've really tried to do is drop the obstructions between the host and the guests. And I don't know if you want to discuss this at some point, I guess, Kirk, but my thoughts on studios are that back in the day, they were designed around the hardware, right? Around all the equipment that you have. So you build the studio around your equipment. And then once we started moving the equipment into rack rooms, we started to build the studios around the talent. And we did that for a while. And now what I'm thinking is our next generation is building our studios around our guests and the experience they have when they come in to learn about radio or be on the radio for the first time, get interviewed to talk about whatever it is that's important to them, what event they have going on. And so that's how we designed this. And this is something that we've just been ourselves within the last few weeks. So it's all still very fresh and new to us right now. But that's the idea, is that this is designed around our guests. And so behind the operating position up here actually is 2 more screens, which I just hung today. We haven't even wired them up yet, but those 2 screens behind and above the operator are going to mirror these 2 screens that are behind and above the guests. So the guests will be able to see what the operator is doing.
Yeah.
And so hopefully it will pique their interest in some of the automation software we're using and the recording and the editing and the how-to stuff. We have a lot of students in here. So we want this to be comfortable. We want it to be very functional. We want it to be high-tech. And we want it to be a showcase to promote radio and the cool stuff that we do.
Dave, that is absolutely beautiful. And I'm so glad that you share ideas with your other friends in the radio business. I know that my radio business partner, Larry Fuss, but before I even stepped in the studio with the new studios that we built in Oxford, Mississippi, he already had 1, 2, 3. He had 4 big monitors up in the studio in Oxford, in the main studio, and 2 monitors up as you walk into the lobby, with signage on them, or cable TV channels as needed. You've gone even a step further there and put the automation up, which is great, and keeps you from having to have monitors between, as you said, between you and the talent. Hey, it's Kirk Harnack at This Week in Radio Tech. Dave Radigan is our guest, and we're going to take a quick break to hear from some sponsors. We'll be back and talk with Dave Radigan some more and get some final thoughts from Dave about implementing new technology and how that helps his staff and how the staff takes to it and things like that. And really, how that helps Dave as a business operator, helps his profitability, how it helps his bottom line in the long run. This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you in part by Angry Audio. And I want you to watch this video. This is a cool little video of the Angry Audio Rave console. And this guy is just so beautiful. This is about a $2,000 console. It's an analog console. It's got some mic preamps in it. It's got, of course, XLR connectors typically for the mic connectors, but it's got Studio Hub connections for just about everything else. You've got 8 faders on this console. You've got a preview bus, of course. You've got a program and an audition bus on it. You've got your choice of monitoring different things, and you've got beautiful linear controls for your studio monitors and for your headphones. To some people, that's kind of a new idea. The power supply is built in to the Rave console. This thing is just gorgeous. It's a little bit heavy. I mean, it feels substantial. I've gotten to see this console a few months ago, and they've refined it even more since the last time I saw it. The Rave console from Angry Audio. You can get it from your favorite broadcast equipment dealer. Any dealer that carries Angry Audio equipment can get you a Rave console. It's beautiful. From Angry Audio, angryaudio.com. Thanks so much to Angry Audio for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Appreciate you. Also, our show is brought to you by Max Connect. Max Connect Wireless. We've been talking about them for years and how you can get, quality, high priority LTE cellular data for your remote broadcasts, for your transmitter site. And hey, I've had several stations that we've kept on the air using Max Connect Wireless. Well, they also have a new offering. It's the Max Connect U.192. This is a sound card that's very specialized. It's meant to be used with some of these new FM audio processors that run on a computer. So you can use, for example, Omnia SST audio processing that runs on a Windows PC. It runs as a Windows service. You can use it with Timeo, with Stereo Tool from Timeo. I believe you can use it also with the Breakaway One audio processor. And the idea of the U192 is that it does have a 192 kilohertz sampling rate, and the output of it is available on a BNC connector, giving you a full MPX multiplex output, composite, if you will. Some people call it a composite output on a BNC connector to go feed your FM transmitter if it's right there locally, or you can feed your composite STL system if you have one of those. A lot of people have an analog or maybe even a digital composite STL system, and this will get you between the audio processor running on a PC and wherever it's going that needs to be delivered in composite format. And this is absolutely the right way to get this done. The electronics here were designed, the input and output electronics designed by Angry Audio, by Mike Dosh and Angry Audio. And so it's super quiet, it's super reliable. The power supply is heavy duty. It's exactly what you need. It's also very flexible, 110, 220 volts, worldwide standards there. And this also features analog and digital inputs and outputs as well, in addition to the multiplex output. From Max Connect, you can go to the website and read about it at Max Connect. I know it's spelled funny, maxconnect.com, and read about the U192 MPX USB sound card. This is a great way to feed super high quality composite audio to your FM exciter or your FM, your composite STL system. So check it all out from Max Connect. Really appreciate Josh Bone and his efforts to make broadcasting better for all of us engineers in cooperation with Angry Audio. Check that out. Thanks a lot. All right, show This Week in Radio Tech. This is our episode 695. Dave Radigan is with us. Dave, I want to chat for a minute about the impact of your implementations of technology. You already mentioned about on your operations, one thing that prompted you to implement Livewire over an IP radio pair was getting to put your satellite dish and satellite receivers at the transmitter site, which you had control of. And that was a good physical place for you to do that. And it would eliminate some other worry for you. But you had to make sure you got your audio full time, no problems, and your contact closures back from the satellite receivers. Tell me about your workflows and your staff's acceptance of maybe new, different, changing workflows. How are they adapting to some of the things that you've implemented over recent years?
It just seems like equipment starts disappearing, like the studio starts thinning out and the rack starts thinning out because it just seems like we need fewer things. It just gets more simple and more simple and more simple. And for our staff, there hasn't been many hookups for them. Like it's all happening kind of invisibly in the background, that all these things are just sort of handled for them now. not having to worry about closures and how things work their way into the server and through data controller and into the automation and the mapping. It just works. And, now I don't have to go crawling around with a flashlight in the rack and trying to figure stuff out at 2:00 in the morning. Somebody sends me a text message and says, "Hey, I got a problem with this." And you go, "Okay, give me a minute." And you go to your nearest computer or go to your phone and you splash top into the studio to remote something, or you pull up a web address or an IP address and you go to the box and you figure out the click this or click that. And the problem is solved from 25 miles away or 1,000 miles away. And the station sounds great. And you can check on it from a stream. You can check on it from some of the cool products from Innovonics with their remote streaming devices that also have AOIP built into them. And there's just so many amazing tools. You're talking about the stuff that Max Connect is doing. What a time to be alive. Micro MPX. This is incredible. Like, this is just great technology that simplifies our lives as operators, as on-air talent, as engineers, making things sound better and do more for less. That's what radio's been doing for years, but now we can do it ourselves. It's great.
I was talking with a gentleman, a friend on Facebook with him. He's a broadcaster, kind of a new broadcaster. He's in the States. I think he's in New Jersey, and he has a radio station. He does a teaching ministry on a radio station. I think it's in Trinidad. I'm sorry, it's in the Caribbean, and he sends the audio over micro MPX all the way to Trinidad. And he was having a little trouble getting it working. And then he texted me and I said, make sure these ports are open and you do this and that. And he texted me back and said, "Hey, it works great. Thanks very much." So, and actually he just put in an AOIP console, actually a console very similar to yours. It may have been it was an IQ console. So it's great to see people do this, but something that you just mentioned, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, when I was working with all the Delta radio stations in Mississippi with Larry, when something went wrong, it was always a decision. Am I going to go into the stations to fix it now, or am I going to go in tomorrow morning? But either way, I had to go there. Like you said, with a flashlight and crawl around, or get up in the attic and pull on the wire and see where it went, or look at the punch blocks and see what came loose, or what did the station cat, unfurl. And now I rarely have to physically go somewhere. I can do everything remotely. I can even check on problems and see what went wrong. Oh, well, that USB hard drive in the back of the computer looks like it got loose or wiggly. You need to unplug that, plug it back in, maybe reboot the computer. And it's amazing what you can do remotely. I would say 97% of the things that I fix remotely. And that's what you're finding too, isn't it?
Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you and Larry and I are very similar, and we have very similar tastes in equipment and things like that. I mean, I know you guys use a lot of Playout One. You guys use a lot of Axia stuff in your operations. You're in Nashville. He's in Vegas. Your stations are in Mississippi. You got more stuff going on in Hawaii. Like, you're all over the place, but you're able to do what you love doing from your place where you love, living. And Larry can do the same thing. And the people running the station in Mississippi are getting top-notch technical support from you and management from him. And it just allows all of that to be possible. All of my markets are within a 25-minute drive of me, but I still have all the same benefit from the same technology. I'm a lot closer to my properties than you guys are, but it's still a great benefit. I mean, Irene and I have 5 children. So it really makes it great to be able to minimize a problem to a couple of minutes. So if I'm at the park with my daughter, pushing her on the swing, and there's a problem with one of the stations, I can still push her with one hand on the swing and have my phone in the other and fix the problem, and not have to load her in the car and take her away from what it is she likes doing to go fix something dumb at the radio station, when I can just fix it remotely. And my daughter or my family or my wife don't even know that there was a problem, and I can fix it. It's just great, and it's a top-notch quality too. Like, our stations have a signature sound because we have the tight automation system and the clean digital air chain and great Nautel transmitters and like all of that stuff. It just comes together so perfectly to make the station sound the way they do. You can scroll up and down the dial here and know which stations are Radigan Media stations just by how they sound. When you hear at the end of the song an ID or a jock come on, they'll go, oh, yep, that's Choice 102, because it just has this quality sound because of the ingredients we're using. Give you an example, something you were just talking about, how technology changes, right? So 3 or 4 years ago, we were just buying the stations. And we had to have somebody come in Sunday morning because we still run a church service from 11 to noon. So what would happen is they would do the church service from 9 to 10, and then the sound engineer at the church would take the file, burn it to a disk, drive it to the radio station, put it through the mail slot. The board operator would get here at 5 minutes to 11 and get the disc from the floor of the lobby in front of the mail slot, walk it into the studio, put it in the CD player, set the automation just right, and turn it on and pot up the CD player and press play at 11 o'clock, and then go into the production room and cut community calendar events for an hour, and then come back and turn the church service off at noon. That was 3 years ago. Today, the sound engineer at the church is saving the recording into a Dropbox folder. It's syncing to Dropbox. Our automation is seeing it, pulling it at 10:45, putting it into the system, and automatically playing it back at 11 o'clock and wrapping it up when it's done. And nobody has to do anything. Nobody has to. I mean, where are you finding CDs to burn them still? Where are you finding CD drives to burn the CD? Where are you finding people that know how to do that still, right? And our community calendar person loves it because she can work whenever she wants now, She can bring the dogs, and if she's here for 30 minutes cutting community calendar items or an hour, 15, whatever it takes, she can do it. And she's not stuck to the console. And that's just, where we've come in 3 years, putting what's available out there to work for us. Why are we spending our time working on stuff like that? Why are we dubbing spots when you got services like Mr. Master that can download them all and put them in, and great. Those are important jobs, back in the day. But now, when you don't have to do stuff like that, and it frees you up to do other great stuff, like stuff that actually helps your community and promoting things and doing interview and getting actual real content on the air, this is great. It's better for all of us.
And maybe I shouldn't say, but services, and I'm not going to pick on Mr. Master, but any of these services where you're downloading a file, a show segment, a commercial that's going to air, whatever it is that you're getting from outside, that's not coming over satellites, coming over some kind of a internet connected service. Once in a great while, maybe a mistake is made, but when there were a lot of mistakes made is when at least for us, we had a live person at the station responsible for dubbing all these things and putting them in the automation. Oh my goodness.
After you've dubbed 23 spots in the last, 45 minutes, you start to get a little punchy, So,
a little punchy. That's right.
It's so great to not have to even worry about that. It's like, every once in a while you could, just go reboot that machine. That's fine. And you're working on content, and that's really where it's at. You get to be creative and do content and focus on that. And that's the thing that the mom and pops have always had, is the local content. And now for us to be able to not have to dub spots and do all these other, board up the church service, and being able to do more broadcasts, because we don't need board operators anymore. But the thing of the matter is, you weren't able to find them anymore anyway. So now, because you don't need a board operator, if you find something that you need to go and do or want to go and do that can serve your community better, you can just go do it. It's great to be able to have all this technology behind you and have it accessible to everybody.
Essentially, you have a lot of the same things to say about that as our mutual friend Beth Mann does, and her operations over in Cadiz, Kentucky. Hey, we're going to take our last break, and it's some people you know about. In fact, you might add a good word at the end of this. Our show is brought to you in part by our friends at Vox Pro. We'll be right back with Dave Radigan's last word.
Hey, what's happening? St. John here, coming to you from Command Central, and wanted to tell you about the absolute best partner you can have in radio. I'm talking about, boom, Wheatstone's Vox Pro. Now, a lot of folks have used previous versions of Vox Pro, all awesome, but I want to tell you about some of my favorite new features in 7. And for folks who've never used Vox Pro before, I'm about to tell you why it's an absolute game changer and essential for really fast-paced multi-element radio. Lots of different audio software out there. Why Vox Pro? Because it was designed for radio. It's the only software designed to do what we needed to do, which is record, edit, playback in real time. When I say lightning fast, I'm going to show you how fast you can edit stuff up in Vox Pro right now. So literally 3 clicks on the controller, mark left, mark right, everything that gets marked, you hit delete, it goes away. It's literally that fast. So we're going to take this part right here. Boom. From caller 9 to him saying, I'm ready.
5, ready for that secret sound.
Boom. All of that stuff, hit delete, it goes away. Here's your edit.
You are tackling secret sound caller 9. I'm ready, St. John.
So one of the best features of version 7, this is awesome. It's effects macros, and you can literally put a chain of effects together so that instead of having to normalize a phone bit and then use noise reduction on it and EQ it and all that, you can literally build a chain. One button, this one's called call right here. I just click that. All of those processes happen instantaneously. Literally saves 80% of your editing and cleanup time. Final thing that I love about Vox Pro, and there's so much more to get into, but one of my favorite things, you can load it on a laptop. I've literally done my show from a hotel room in Armenia to the conference room at, this was fun, jury duty. Great thing, no one could tell the difference. Vox Pro makes it totally easy. Telling you, if you're looking for the best on-air partner, call my friends at Wheatstone, ask them about Vox Pro, and you will be glad you did.
And actually, the place to buy Vox Pro is Broadcasters General Store. The website is bgs.cc, or you can call them at 352-622-7700 for Broadcasters General Store. Love those folks. They got sharp pencils, good attitudes, and they can tell you when your gear is going to be there. Most likely, in almost every case. Thanks a lot, Broadcaster General Store. And Dave, your people there seem to like Vox Pro. You got one right there on the desk.
We've got one up here. I want to learn to edit like him. I mean,
yeah, I know. I think he practiced that before he shot the commercial, but he's pretty good at it.
You know, if he came here and watched me edit, he would just go crazy at how slow I am and out of practice I am. Part of the reason why we built this beautiful studio and got everything set up the way we do is I'm hoping to create enough time in my day to be able to sit in here for an hour or so and actually do radio and not do any of the manager stuff or the owner stuff, and actually come in and have fun and take some calls and edit them. And it would be great. It'd be great. So, but thanks to the guys at Broadcasters General Store too, and Hugh and all those dudes for keeping us equipped with all this great stuff.
Yeah, they do a great job. Good to see them at NAB too. Dave, we just got a couple of minutes left. I wonder if I could put you on the spot. If you were speaking to a group of your broadcasting friends about the kind of technical topics we've been talking about and improving your broadcast facilities, what advice would you leave with them? Hence, what advice would you leave with our audience as an owner?
It's kind of the same it's always been. Have a nice clean air chain, make it simple and reliable. Just make it work and make it sound good. Our station should always sound like $1 million. And if they don't, we got to work on that. Radio is under attack a lot. And I think if we just do the best job that we can, make a station sound good and keep this stuff working in the background like we know that it should, so that we can be doing the local content that we excel at. That's what it's all about. Friends like Beth Mann, they don't let technical things stand in their way. You should have all the technical stuff around you that you need. It should all be working. It should all be bulletproof, and do what we do best and focus on our communities and serve our cities of licenses and our areas. That's really what it's all about. We serve the community. We want to make sure that everything's working and sounding the best that it possibly can. So that's the deal. Have a clean air chain, do great radio.
I am motivated and encouraged by your great attitude, and I know there are plenty of small, medium, large market owners and managers that have the same positive outlook and attitude that you do. But sometimes we get bogged down with our perceived problems in the radio business, and maybe some of our real problems in radio. So it's great to hear your positive outlook on everything and how you work through problems.
I don't know how to do anything else. And I need to do this for at least another 20 years. So We gotta keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. Dave Radigan, thank you so much for joining us. Dave Radigan with the Radigan Media in South Central New York.
Yes.
You're in Sayre, Pennsylvania right now, but that's
We're right on the
throw a
border.
rock and hit you throw a rock and
Correct.
hit New York.
Correct.
All
My
right.
feet are in Pennsylvania and my skyline is in New York.
Well, I look forward to, without letting any cats out of the bag, I look forward to seeing you in about a week and a half.
Look forward to having you here for our conference, and thank you for taking the time to come and see us, and for having me on TWiRT today. This is very exciting for me, so thank you very much.
Exciting for me too. Thanks a lot. Dave Radigan's been our guest, and we will. Well, maybe I can say something after I go meet Dave in person again in a couple weeks. Our show This Week in Radio Tech, we got some great sponsors. Please patronize them, visit them, let them know that you heard about here. If you're watching us on some channel where you can hit like and subscribe, that would be great if you would do that. Of course, feel welcome to share the show with your friends, anybody that you feel would need to hear it. Hey, and sometimes we cover topics that are a little bit different than straight engineering, like today's with Dave Radigan, who's an owner and CEO of several stations, 17 signals in that area in Upper Pennsylvania, Lower New York. So, thanks for joining us. Next week, we've got an interview. We're going to be talking with a fellow who is retired from broadcast engineering, but he loved to solve problems in interesting and creative ways. We're going to speak with that engineer next week. We'll see you next week. Oh, big thanks to Suncast, always standing by with a good production on our program. Really appreciate you, Suncast. And thanks to Andrew Zarian, who founded the GFQ network, where we are on. We'll see you next week on This Week in Radio.